The moment my son and daughter-in-law drove away for their vacation, something impossible happened. My 8-year-old grandson, who doctors said would never speak a single word in his life, looked straight into my eyes and said something that made my blood freeze. Before we proceed, thank you for watching her voice narrative. Please subscribe and tell us where you are watching from in the comment section. Grandma, do not drink the tea. Mom poisoned it. I am 70 years old and I thought nothing could shock me anymore. I was wrong. Let me start from the beginning. My name is Margaret, and for the past 3 years, I have been watching my world slowly fall apart. My memory was failing. I could not remember simple things like where I put my keys or what I ate for breakfast. Some days I would wake up and forget what year it was. The doctors said it was normal aging, maybe early dementia. My son Richard believed them. His wife Amanda seemed so concerned, always making sure I took my medicine and drank special herbal tea she prepared for me. But the truth was far darker than anyone imagined. Richard and Amanda had been planning this vacation for months. 2 weeks at a beach resort, just the two of them. They needed a break, Amanda said. Raising a special needs child was exhausting. Someone had to watch Tommy, and I was the obvious choice. I loved spending time with my grandson, even though he never spoke to me. Even though he never looked me in the eye for more than a second. Even though the doctor said he lived in his own world and might never connect with us the way normal children do. That morning when they dropped him off, Amanda handed me a large bag filled with tea packets. She had prepared them specially for me, she said. 1 in the morning, 1 at night. It would help with my confusion and make me feel better. I thanked her, thinking how lucky Richard was to have such a caring wife. The moment their car disappeared around the corner, everything changed. Tommy stood in the middle of my living room, staring at me. Not the blank stare I was used to, but a focused, intelligent look that sent chills down my spine. Then he spoke clear as day. Grandma, we need to talk. I have been pretending this whole time. I dropped the bag of tea packets. They scattered across the floor, and I just stood there, unable to move, unable to breathe. Tommy walked over to me and took my hand. His grip was firm, urgent. Please sit down, Grandma. What I am about to tell you will be hard to hear, but you need to know the truth. Mom has been poisoning you for 3 years. The tea she makes is not tea. It has medicine in it that makes you confused and sleepy. She wants you to die so she and Dad can have your house and your money. The room started spinning. I sat down heavily in my armchair, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. This could not be real. Children with autism do not suddenly start speaking in perfect sentences. My daughter-in-law would not try to kill me. This had to be a dream, or maybe my dementia was worse than I thought. But Tommy kept talking, and with every word, pieces of a horrible puzzle fell into place. I know you think I cannot understand things, Grandma. That is what Mom wants everyone to believe. But I can read, can write. I understand everything people say around me. I have been watching Mom for years, learning how to survive in a house where speaking up could get me sent away forever. My hands were shaking. How long have you been able to talk? Always, Grandma. Since I was a baby. But when I was 3, I said something in front of Mom that I was not supposed to. I told her I saw her putting pills in your tea. She got so angry. She told me if I ever spoke again where anyone could hear, she would send me to a hospital where they do terrible things to children. She said I would never see you or Dad again. She said no one would believe me anyway because I was just a stupid kid. So I stopped talking. I stopped making eye contact. I pretended to be in my own world. And everyone believed it. The doctors, Dad, even you. I'm sorry, Grandma. I wanted to tell you so many times, but I was too scared. Tears were streaming down my face. 3 years of thinking my grandson could not connect with me. 3 years of grieving for the relationship we would never have. And all that time he was protecting himself the only way he knew how. Show me, I whispered. Show me what she has been doing. Tommy led me to my kitchen. He opened the cabinet where I kept the tea Amanda made for me and pulled out one of the packets. He carefully tore it open and spread the contents on the counter. Mixed in with the dried herbs were small white fragments that definitely did not belong in tea. These are crushed pills, he said. I have watched Mom make these packets. She uses sleeping pills, pills for anxiety, and something else I do not know the name of. She crushes them up really fine and mixes them with the tea so you cannot taste them. Felt sick. How many cups have I drunk? How much poison has been in my body? Lot, Grandma. That is why you have been so confused and tired. But you have been getting worse. I heard Mom talking on the phone last week. She told someone she was tired of waiting. She said this vacation was the perfect time because she and Dad would be far away when it happened. She made this batch extra strong, Grandma. If you drink it, you might not wake up. The full horror of what Tommy was telling me hit like a physical blow. My daughter-in-law had spent 3 years slowly poisoning me, documenting my decline, making sure everyone thought I was just a sick old woman losing her mind. And now, with her and Richard safely on vacation, she had prepared a final dose strong enough to kill me. They would come home to find me dead, probably from what looked like natural causes. An old woman with dementia who simply passed away in her sleep. And Tommy, my precious grandson, had known, had been watching, had been powerless to stop it because speaking up would mean losing everything. I pulled him into my arms and held him tight. You are so brave. So incredibly brave. We are going to stop her, Tommy. We are going to make sure she never hurts either of us again. But how? Tommy asked, his voice small and scared. If I tell people I can talk, they will think something is wrong with me. And if you tell them Mom is poisoning you, they will think your dementia is making you paranoid. He was right. Amanda had been clever. She had created a situation where both of her victims were unreliable witnesses. A confused old woman and a nonverbal autistic child. Who would believe us? We need proof, I said, my mind starting to work more clearly than it had in years. Real evidence that no one can deny. And I think I know how to get it. That first day was a blur of planning and preparation. Tommy told me everything he had observed over the past few years. He had an incredible memory for details. He could tell me exactly when Amanda started preparing the tea, how her behavior changed over time, the phone calls she made when she thought no one was listening. She talks to someone named Marcus, Tommy said. I think he is helping her. They talk about money a lot and about you. Marcus told her the best way to do it was slowly so no one would suspect. But last month, he said they needed to speed things up because you were healthier than they expected. Who is Marcus? I do not know. But I heard Mom say he used to work at a pharmacy. Maybe he is the one getting her the pills. While Tommy talked, I searched through my house looking for anything suspicious. In the back of my bathroom cabinet, I found bottles of prescription medication I did not recognize. The labels had been partially torn off, but I could still read some of the names. Zolpidem, lorazepam, diphenhydramine, all powerful sedatives and sleep aids. I took photos of everything with my phone. Then Tommy and I went through the tea packets Amanda had prepared. We opened them carefully and documented the crushed pills mixed in with the herbs. I saved samples of everything in plastic bags. But we need more than this, I said. We need her to confess. We need her to say out loud what she has been doing. Tommy thought for a moment. When they come back from vacation, she will call to check on you. She always does. She will want to know if you drank the tea. That gave me an idea. A dangerous idea, but it might be our only chance. For the next 2 weeks, Tommy and I prepared. We practiced what we would say and how we would act. I taught him about recording devices and how to hide them where no one would look. We mapped out every camera and recording spot in my house. And we waited. I did not drink any of the tea Amanda prepared. Instead, I poured it down the sink and pretended to be getting worse. When Amanda called to check on me, I made my voice sound weak and confused. I told her I was having trouble remembering things and sleeping most of the day. Good, she said, and I could hear the satisfaction in her voice. That is completely normal at your age, Margaret. Just keep drinking the tea. It will help. Every conversation with her made me feel sick. This woman who called me Mom, who smiled at family dinners and brought me flowers on my birthday, had been slowly killing me for 3 years. But I played my part. I sounded grateful for her concern. I thanked her for taking such good care of me. And all the while, Tommy and I were building our case. Tommy showed me things I never would have found on my own. In the back of a drawer in my guest room. He found a notebook where Amanda had been keeping records. Dates, dosages, observations about my behavior. She had been documenting my decline like a scientist running an experiment. Subject showing increased confusion. One entry read. Memory lapses more frequent. Recommended increasing evening dose. Another entry from 2 months ago was even more chilling. Subject becoming suspicious. Questioning why she feels so tired. Reduced dosage temporarily to avoid detection. Will resume full strength after concerns pass. It was all there in her own handwriting. A detailed record of how she was killing me. I need to tell you something else, Grandma, Tommy said one evening as we were preparing dinner. About Dad. My heart sank. What about him? He knows. Not everything, but enough. I've heard them fighting about it. Dad did not want to do it at first, but Mom kept talking about how much money they would save and how you were going to die soon anyway. She said they were just helping nature along. So Richard knew. My own son knew his wife was poisoning me and did nothing to stop it. The betrayal cut deeper than anything Amanda had done. Does he feel bad about it? Yes. Think so. He drinks a lot now. More than he used to. And sometimes late at night I hear him crying. But he is too scared of Mom to stop her. She controls everything in our house, Grandma. The money, the decisions, everything. Dad just goes along with whatever she says. Learning that my son was weak rather than evil provided little comfort. He had chosen his wife over his mother. He had chosen money over my life. And he had forced his son to live in fear and silence. 2 weeks passed slowly. Each day my head felt clearer. The fog that had been my constant companion for 3 years was lifting. I started to remember things I thought I had forgotten. I could think clearly and plan ahead. For the first time in years I felt like myself again. And I was angry. Angrier than I had ever been in my life. Tommy felt it too. The longer he could speak freely, the more confident he became. He started smiling, laughing, asking questions about everything. This brilliant, curious child had been locked in silence for 5 years. And now that he was free, even temporarily, he was blossoming. But we both knew it could not last. When Richard and Amanda came home, Tommy would have to go back to being silent. And I would have to pretend to be the confused old woman they expected. It was the only way to make our plan work. The night before they returned, Tommy and I stayed up late reviewing everything one more time. Tomorrow when they come home, you need to act like you are getting worse, I reminded him. No talking, no eye contact, nothing that would make them suspicious. I know, he said. But Grandma, what if the plan does not work? What if no one believes us even with all the evidence? Then we go to plan B, I said. We pack our things and we run. I have enough money hidden away. We can start over somewhere they will never find us. Tommy nodded seriously. But his next words broke my heart. I do not want to run, Grandma. I want them to pay for what they did to us. Mom made me scared to talk for 5 whole years. She made you sick and confused. She tried to kill you. People like that should not get away with it. He was right. Running would keep us safe, but it would also let Amanda and Richard continue their lives as if nothing had happened. They might even try again with someone else. No, we were going to fight. And we were going to win. Richard and Amanda arrived home on a Tuesday afternoon. I heard their car pull into the driveway and took a deep breath. This was it. Everything we had worked for came down to the next few hours. I positioned myself in my armchair, making sure I looked disheveled and weak. Tommy sat on the floor near me, playing silently with his toys just as he always did. The recording devices we had hidden throughout the house were all running, capturing everything. The front door opened, and I heard Amanda's voice calling out. Margaret, we are home. How are you feeling? I am here, I called back, making my voice sound tired and confused. They came into the living room, and I watched Amanda's face carefully. She looked happy, relaxed from her vacation. But when she saw me, something flickered in her eyes. Satisfaction, maybe. Or anticipation. Oh my goodness, she said, rushing over to me. You look terrible. Have you been taking care of yourself? I tried, I said weakly. But I have been so tired. So confused. I cannot remember if I have been eating properly. Richard hung back near the doorway. He looked uncomfortable, and he would not meet my eyes. Good, I thought. He should feel uncomfortable. Have you been drinking the tea I prepared for you? Amanda asked, and I could hear the eagerness in her voice. Yes, I lied. Every morning and every night, just like you told me to. Tastes different than usual. Stronger. That is because I adjusted the recipe, Amanda said smoothly. I thought you might need something more potent to help with your symptoms. Symptoms? As if my confusion and memory loss were natural diseases rather than the result of her poisoning. Margaret, I think we need to talk about your living situation, Amanda continued. Richard and I have been discussing it, and we think it might be time for you to consider moving into a care facility. Somewhere with professional staff who can watch you around the clock. Care facility. The final step in her plan. Once I was locked away in a nursing home, completely under her control, she could finish what she started without anyone questioning it. I do not want to be a burden, I said, playing my role perfectly. If you think that is best. We just want what is best for you, Richard said, finally speaking up. His voice sounded hollow, rehearsed. This was the moment we had been waiting for. I looked at Tommy and gave him the smallest nod. Tommy stood up from the floor. Instead of staying silent as everyone expected, he walked over to where Amanda was standing and looked up at her. Why do you want to kill Grandma? He asked in a clear, perfect voice. The effect was instantaneous. Amanda's face went white. Richard stumbled backward like he had been hit. And I stood up from my chair, no longer playing the part of a confused old woman. Tommy, Amanda whispered. Cannot. You do not speak. I can speak, Tommy said calmly. I have always been able to speak. You just made me too scared to do it. How long? Richard's voice was barely audible. How long have you been able to talk? My whole life, Dad. But Mom told me if I ever spoke where anyone could hear, she would send me away to a place where they hurt children. She said you would let her do it because you do not really love me. So I stayed quiet. I watched and I listened and I learned things I was never supposed to know. This is insane, Amanda said, but her voice was shaking. He is lying. He is confused. This is some kind of episode. Is it? I asked, my voice strong and clear. Is it an episode when I can suddenly remember everything? When the fog you have been putting me in for 3 years is finally gone? When I can think clearly for the first time since you started poisoning my tea? Richard was looking back and forth between us, his face pale. Poisoning? What are you talking about? I walked over to my kitchen counter where I had laid out all the evidence. The tea packets with visible pill fragments. The prescription bottles with the torn labels. The photos I had taken. And most damning of all, Amanda's own notebook documenting every dose she had given me. This is what I am talking about, I said. 3 years of systematic poisoning. 3 years of medications designed to make me appear senile and confused. And this vacation was supposed to be your alibi when the extra strong dose finally killed me. Amanda was backing toward the door, but Richard blocked her path. He picked up the notebook and started reading. With each page, his face got paler and his hands started shaking. You documented it, he whispered. You kept records of what you were doing to my mother. Of course I kept records, Amanda snapped, her composure finally cracking. How else was I supposed to know what dosages to use? How else was I supposed to make sure it looked natural? So you admit it, I said. You admit you have been poisoning me. Amanda realized her mistake, but it was too late. The words were out, and the recording devices had captured everything. She changed tactics, turning to Richard with pleading eyes. We needed the money. You know we needed it. Your mother is old. She was going to die soon anyway. The house alone is worth $500,000, and her savings, her investments, we could have everything. We could finally live the life we deserve. By killing my mother. Richard's voice was rising. You have been murdering my mother and you made me complicit in it. You knew, Amanda shot back. Maybe you did not know all the details, but you knew something was wrong. You knew she was getting worse faster than normal. And you did nothing because you wanted that money just as much as I did. Richard slumped against the wall. She was right and he knew it. He had chosen not to see what was happening because some part of him wanted the inheritance. And what about Tommy? He asked. What kind of mother forces her child to live in silence for 5 years? He is autistic, Amanda said. Everyone believes it. It makes him the perfect witness because no one would ever believe anything he said. I am not autistic, Tommy said quietly. You just told everyone I was. You took me to doctors and you told them I did not speak and I did not make eye contact. And because you are my mother, they believed you. But I could have talked the whole time. I could have told them you were lying. I was just too scared of what you would do to me. The doorbell rang, interrupting the confrontation. I went to answer it, leaving Richard to deal with his wife. The police officers I had called an hour earlier stood on my doorstep, exactly as planned. Are you Margaret Henderson? One of them asked. Thank you for coming. I need to report an attempted murder and child abuse. And I have extensive evidence to support my claims. What happened over the next few hours was a blur. Police officers filled my house, taking statements and collecting evidence. Amanda was arrested immediately. She screamed and threatened and claimed we were all lying, but the evidence was overwhelming. Richard was questioned for hours. In the end, he was arrested too, not for the poisoning directly, but for knowing about it and failing to stop it. His weakness had made him an accomplice. Tommy and I gave our statements separately. I told them everything about the poisoning, the medications, the notebook. Tommy told them about being forced into silence, about the threats Amanda had made, about the years of watching and listening and being unable to speak up. The medical examination confirmed everything. My blood still showed traces of the medications Amanda had been giving me. The levels were dangerous, high enough that a few more doses might have killed me. The doctors said I was lucky to be alive. Tommy's psychological evaluation was equally revealing. The experts confirmed that he showed no signs of autism or any developmental disorder. He was, in fact, remarkably intelligent and well-adjusted considering what he had been through. The silence had been purely psychological, a survival mechanism in an abusive household. The trial took 6 months. During that time, Tommy lived with me full-time. With Amanda and Richard both in jail awaiting trial, I was granted temporary custody. Then, when the full scope of what had happened became clear, the custody became permanent. Watching Tommy come out of his shell was incredible. He talked constantly, making up for 5 years of forced silence. He asked questions about everything. He wanted to learn about science and history and how things worked. His teachers were amazed by how quickly he caught up with his peers and then surpassed them. But there were hard days too. Days when he woke up screaming from nightmares about being sent away. Days when he would suddenly go quiet and withdrawn, afraid that if he spoke, something terrible would happen. Therapy helped. Time helped. And knowing he was safe helped most of all. The evidence against Amanda was overwhelming. Her own notebook, combined with my medical records and Tommy's testimony, left no doubt about what she had done. The prosecution charged her with attempted murder, elder abuse, child abuse, and conspiracy to commit murder. The defense tried to argue that I was confused, that my dementia had made me paranoid, and I had somehow convinced Tommy to lie for me. But the medical evidence destroyed that argument. The medications in my system, the notebook in Amanda's handwriting, the recorded conversation where she admitted to everything. There was no way to explain it all away. Amanda was sentenced to 25 years in prison. With the charges of attempted murder and child abuse, the judge showed no mercy. She would be eligible for parole in 15 years, but given the nature of her crimes, parole seemed unlikely. Richard's sentence was lighter but still significant. 5 years in prison for being an accessory to attempted murder. The judge noted that while he did not directly participate in the poisoning, his failure to protect his mother and his son made him guilty as well. At the sentencing, I spoke directly to them both. Richard, I said, you are my son and I loved you. But you chose money over your family. You let your wife poison me and terrorize your child because it was easier than standing up to her. I hope you spend your time in prison thinking about what that says about who you are. Then I turned to Amanda. You spent 3 years trying to kill me. You forced my grandson to live in fear and silence. You stole years of his childhood and almost stole the rest of my life. But you failed. We are both still here, and we are both stronger than you ever imagined. You will spend the next decades in prison knowing that all your careful planning, all your cruelty, all your greed amounted to nothing. She stared at me with cold eyes, showing no remorse even then. After the trial, life slowly returned to normal. Tommy started regular school and made friends. He joined the science club and the debate team. He was happy, truly happy, for the first time in his life. I recovered fully from the effects of the poisoning. The doctor said I was lucky. A few more weeks and the damage might have been permanent. My memory came back completely. The confusion and fog lifted. I was myself again. Tommy and I settled into a comfortable routine. Breakfast together every morning before school. Homework at the kitchen table every afternoon. Long conversations about everything and nothing. All the normal things we should have been doing for years. Sometimes people ask me if I am angry about what happened. The truth is more complicated than simple anger. I am sad that 3 years of my life were stolen. I am heartbroken that my son chose greed over love. But more than anything, I am grateful. Grateful that Tommy found the courage to speak up when it mattered most. Grateful that we caught Amanda before she could finish what she started. Grateful for every day I get to spend with my brilliant, brave grandson. Tommy still has moments where he struggles with what happened. Sometimes he wonders if things would have been different if he had spoken up sooner. I always tell him the same thing. He did exactly what he needed to do to survive, and when the moment came to save us both, he did not hesitate. One evening, about a year after the trial, Tommy and I were sitting on the porch watching the sunset. He had just turned 10 years old, and he was reading a book about marine biology. He wanted to be a scientist when he grew up, maybe study ocean animals. "Grandma," he said, looking up from his book, "do you think Dad will ever apologize?" "I do not know," I said honestly. "Some people never admit they were wrong, even when they have lost everything because of it. Do you think you will forgive him?" I thought about that for a long time before answering. Maybe someday. But forgiveness does not mean forgetting what happened or pretending it did not hurt. And it definitely does not mean letting him back into our lives if he has not truly changed. Tommy nodded thoughtfully. "I do not think I can forgive Mom. What she did was too bad." "You do not have to forgive her," I told him. "Some things are unforgivable. What matters is that you do not let what she did define the rest of your life. You are so much more than what happened to you." The sun was setting in brilliant shades of orange and pink. It was beautiful, peaceful. The kind of moment I had thought I would never experience again during those dark years when the fog was closing in. "I am glad I spoke up," Tommy said quietly. "Even though it was scary. Even though I did not know if anyone would believe me. I am glad I did it." "So am I said, putting my arm around him. "You saved both of us that day." We sat in comfortable silence as the stars began to appear. 2 survivors, 2 fighters, 2 people who had looked death and cruelty in the face and refused to give up. Amanda had tried to erase both of us. Me through poison, Tommy through forced silence. But we were still here. We were still talking, still living, still finding joy in simple things like sunsets and good books. That night, as I tucked Tommy into bed, he asked me one more question. "Grandma, when you thought you were losing your memory, what was the scariest part?" "The scariest part was forgetting who I was," I said. "Forgetting what I cared about and what made me myself. Felt like I was disappearing a little bit every day." "That is how I felt too," he said softly. "When I could not talk, it was like part of me did not exist. Like the real me was trapped inside where no one could see." "But we are both here now," I reminded him. "All of us. Every part of us. And no one can take that away again." He smiled and closed his eyes. Within minutes, he was asleep, peaceful and safe. I stood in the doorway for a moment, watching him breathe. This child who had been brave beyond his years. This boy who had saved my life by finally using his voice. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Tommy still had therapy sessions. We both had to deal with the aftermath of trauma. There were legal matters to finalize and decisions to make about the future. But tonight we were safe. We were together. And we were finally truly free. As I walked downstairs to my own room, I thought about how close it had all come to ending differently. If Tommy had not spoken up that day. If he had let fear keep him silent just a little bit longer. If I had drunk that final batch of poisoned tea. But he had spoken. And I had listened. And together we had fought back against someone who thought we were too weak and too damaged to defend ourselves. People always say that blood is thicker than water, that family comes first, that you should always stand by your relatives. But family is not just about shared DNA. It is about who shows up for you when you need them most. It is about who protects you instead of hurting you. It is about love and trust and safety. Amanda and Richard were related to us by blood, but they were not our family. Not anymore. True family does not poison you or terrorize you or plot your death for money. Tommy and I, we are family. We stood together when everything was falling apart. We trusted each other when no one else could be trusted. We saved each other. And now we build a new life. One where speaking up is encouraged and silence is not a prison. Where tea is just tea and confused moments are actually confused, not signs of hidden poison. Where an 8-year-old boy can talk about marine biology and dream about his future without fear. The house that Amanda wanted so badly, the money she was willing to kill for, it is all still here. But it belongs to us now, to the people who actually cherish it as a home rather than just an asset to be claimed. Sometimes late at night, I walk through the rooms and remember those dark years when I thought I was losing my mind. When every day was a struggle through fog and confusion. When I looked at Tommy and ached for a connection I thought we would never have. And then I remember that morning when he spoke. When he looked at me with those clear, intelligent eyes and saved both our lives with 4 simple words. Do not drink the tea. Everything changed in that moment. The victim became the fighter. The silent child became the hero. The confused old woman became sharp and strategic. We won because we refused to be what Amanda thought we were. We won because Tommy was braver than any child should have to be. We won because when it mattered most, we chose to fight instead of surrender. Now when people ask about my grandson, I tell them the truth. He is brilliant. He is kind. He is strong. He loves science and reading and asking questions. He talks constantly, making up for lost time. And when they express surprise that such a smart, verbal child was ever thought to be nonverbal autistic, I tell them the rest of the story. About fear and manipulation and survival. About a mother who weaponized her own son's silence. About how the human spirit can be suppressed but never truly destroyed. Tommy is not defined by those 5 silent years. He is defined by his courage in ending them. By his decision to speak even when he was terrified of the consequences. By his determination to protect the grandmother who loved him when no one else seemed to. As for me, I am not defined by those 3 years of poisoning. I am defined by surviving them. By fighting back. By refusing to be a victim even when the odds seemed impossible. We are both more than what was done to us. We are what we chose to do about it. And that choice to speak up and fight back made all the difference. Every morning now, when I wake up clear-headed and strong, I am grateful. Every conversation with Tommy, every laugh, every shared moment. These are gifts I almost did not get to have. The ending of our story is not about revenge or bitterness. It is about survival and resilience and the power of truth. It is about a child who found his voice and a grandmother who found her strength. It is about 2 people who refused to disappear, even when someone was determined to erase them. And in the end we did not just survive. We won. The truth came out. Justice was served. And we got to keep living our lives together, free from fear and poison and forced silence. That is our story. The story of how my grandson spoke, and how those words changed everything. Thank you for listening. If this story touched you, please share it. Because somewhere out there might be another Tommy, another silent child who needs to know that speaking up is possible. Another grandmother who needs to know that the confusion she feels might not be natural aging. Our voices matter. Our stories matter. And sometimes, speaking the truth at exactly the right moment can save lives. Never underestimate the power of breaking silence. Never doubt that you can fight back even when you think you are powerless. We did it. And if we can do it, anyone can. Stay safe, stay strong, and never let anyone silence you.